Hey guys, welcome to Foundflix. Just got back from seeing Ouija Origin of Evil. And, it was the big Halloween release this week, though if you were to try to pick between that and Medea, I don't see how you could possibly lose. Both are going to terrify you to the core. But there's no way that I could possibly tear down this house of terrors alone. Welcome to the channel, Jamie! So going into this movie, I was surprised, and as was Jamie as well, to see that it got pretty decent reviews overall. I mean, the Rotten Tomatoes were really high, and that kind of changed my perception of what to expect. I mean, from the trailers, I wasn't necessarily that impressed. I didn't see the first one. Did you?
No, I didn't, but I wasn't impressed from the trailers either. Actually, when I saw the trailer, I'm trying to think, I guess it was maybe Conjuring 2 or something. It was something relatively recent, and I was like, this looks terrible.
Yeah. Well, I remember joking about that, where it was, instead of calling it was Ouija, something is wrong with Doris. That's what it seemed like from the trailer. It's like, I get that. It kind of borrowed a lot from the Conjuring playbook, I guess I would say.
Sure.
As far as the time period being a big factor to the overall style of the movie and the scares itself.
The retro feel and everything,
Yeah, but you can't blame them, because it's like the Conjuring made a lot of money.
Well, yeah, that stuff's really popular right now. Well, I did think it was really interesting that rather than when you think of like a Ouija board or like a witch board or something, you think of, a bunch of stupid teenagers having a party somewhere and they're getting drunk and playing with it, which it did include.
Yeah, it had that aspect.
But in a way that just kind of like introduced the Ouija board. So I thought it was cool that the family actually had like a practice in fortune telling and everything.
Yeah, it made sense in the story itself, which was surprising.
Right. Which doesn't normally happen. It's usually like you get drunk and you pull out a Ouija board and then you're like, oh god, now there's a demon.
Oh, now it's too late. I thought we weren't supposed to do that, but
which
then we
kind of happens, but not.
Yeah,
that's not
unavoidably.
Yeah.
It kind of has to happen, really. But you got a family that depends on being sort of, I guess, scam artists, where they sort of are fake mediums or psychics, and they, provide resolution to people. And then once the older daughter, who was in the other guy's previous movie, Oculus,
yes, as the not the adult character, but her child version. Yeah.
So she got to be a child version, slightly older in this movie, I guess, a few years later. I would say that it was smart of them to put it in the, as we said, the sort of retro aesthetic. And one thing that I was saying that I liked a lot was that they used the sort of split focus angle where you can see the background and the foreground in focus. It just sort of enhanced the retro feel of it. And that was kind of something that didn't work for me necessarily, was that it still looked too modern. Even with the set being retro, it still just had that modern horror look. And sound design as well. Because that was one thing that I remember. One of the first scenes is when Elizabeth Reeser, and she's doing her con on somebody, and she lights a match. And I've never heard a match make...
I thought that too, actually. I was like, why was that so dramatic? That was like the most dramatic match lighting. I did think it was interesting that it went back to a kind of, World War II victims of experimentation thing, which is kind of, a common theme in a lot of horror movies.
But it's always a disturbing well to go back to.
Sure.
But yeah, again, that was definitely, so most of the movie, to a point, even before they get to the Ouija board, was still well done. Like, again, I was impressed with the degree that they developed the characters and stuff like that. More so than you might expect from a movie like this.
Right.
Obviously, Doris is having some issues. That's clear from the trailer and everything that you see. She's got a giant fucking mouth and her eyes are white and shit.
Yeah.
So that's not normal.
The relationship with the dad was like a huge theme throughout the movie, I thought.
Yeah, dad is dead.
Yeah.
Dad's dead. And so you've got this, mother and her two daughters that are going through all this kind of turmoil because of that. And the youngest daughter, again, Doris, is not able to really accept that the dad is gone. And actually, as soon as that element was introduced, the first moment, I was like, dead daddy's going to save the day.
Right. Yeah, I thought that too. I was like, oh, ghost dad.
Ghost dad.
Yeah. Not Bill Cosby, but...
we wish it was Bill Cosby. That would have That would have been quite a twist.
Bill Cosby doesn't play her husband. I thought that same thing. I was like, oh, there's gonna, or hopefully maybe there. I don't even know why hopefully. I was like, why am I hoping that the dad comes back and saves the day? Just because that's always like a fan winner. I guess
that's what it is. Yeah. I mean, I immediately, it's Friday 13th 7 with the psychic girl, and she accidentally killed her dad, and the dad grabs Jason and brings him into the lake at the end. So I was basically hoping for the exact same thing to happen in this movie, and it didn't, so it sucked. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it was a very important thing where that's essentially what Elizabeth Reeser?
Yes.
Okay. I'm so bad with names, it's ridiculous.
Well, I forgot the other name now.
Well, we don't have to remember anymore. Okay. That doesn't matter. But that she's also trying to basically communicate with her dead husband and everything, and it seems like Doris has the gift to be able to do that. Yeah. And so it kind of makes sense, and you can understand where they're coming from in that first degree of trying to get a hold of the dead dad and everything. I also think that whoever, like when they first saw that girl, that played Doris, whoever cast that person was probably so happy. They're like, everything this girl does looks creepy as hell.
Oh, she was good. She was really good. But you know what she did well was actually still being very cute while being creepy. Like, it wasn't like the kid
in Conjuring?
In Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Oh, no! Not Miko Hughes, yeah. Where there's only
Where you're like, oh, God.
There's only one degree that he can go for, and it's creepy. Dylan! Dylan!
Now I want to play with you.
Oh, no! It's too scary. Yeah. But yeah, she did have those kind of moments, too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, even the boyfriend guy, Mikey or whatever, I guess.
Oh yeah, I think his name was Mikey.
I don't think I would have come back to the house.
No, actually, they never explained what happened to him.
Well, he got hung.
Oh no, he got hung. Okay, sorry, you're right.
And they drew it out too. That's why it's like, we know that this guy's like no big deal and whatever, and you know that he's gonna die. It's if it wasn't clear enough he's gonna die.
Yeah.
That Doris is like, do you know what it's like being choked alive, Mikey? Like, it's really fucking terrible, and you can't breathe, and then you die and stuff later. Okay, that dude's gonna die, as if there was any question. Both of the girls go to I guess it was a Catholic school. I mean, it was definitely religious.
I totally took it as a Catholic private school because of the outfits and everything.
Sure.
Yeah.
But then there's the pastor guy. He becomes involved, or has been involved in the family, and seems like a nice guy for the most part. I honestly thought that he was gonna date the mom. Like, they spent all that time.
Oh, in this movie?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, totally, because they drew attention to the fact, like, oh, well, his wife died, like, your husband
Everyone's
died,
dead. All of your significant others are dead.
And there were several scenes where every time she would go meet him before she got out of the car, she would check her makeup and make sure her hair was nice.
Gotta look good for preacher, man.
Yeah, so it was very... Well, and then they went to dinner. I mean, and they went to dinner at a place where they apparently both went to dinner with their previous spouses.
That's true. That was a very bizarre scene.
Yeah.
It also was especially smoky in there. No one was smoking. In the entire movie, no one smoked,
That's what restaurants looked like.
There was no air quality control.
People were smoking cigarettes all the time, even though they weren't doing it on screen.
That was just more to make you care about their relationship, or like why he would care about the family. He seems invested in the girls and stuff like that, and then again, obviously,
he has like a somewhat romantic interest in the mother or something. It definitely took a change in direction once the priest came home with the translated writings.
Yes, there was Doris writing the like words and this whole pages in a journal or whatever, and the older sister takes it to the priest to get translated, and fortunately there's a Polish priest, or a Polish nun actually, that was there. Transferred from the
World
war.
War II.
From the war.
Yeah.
It took a big turn from that point.
Yeah, because at that point it had been kind of gradual, like as far as the pacing. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as he came to the house, it's this like suddenly very urgent. Like, I have to talk to you, and then we got to go to the room, and then we got to do this.
Yeah, it just didn't really stop from that point. It was just like
and then it was like, oh, and then now somebody's gonna die, and kind of like, oh wow, okay, now we're obviously getting to the third act.
Yeah, I was just thinking the third act thing.
That's how it always happens. Is like, oh, third act. What do I do in the third act?
Gotta crank it up.
Yep, all of this shit is coming out, and so yeah.
Well, and it always was in the house, in the same way with the third act, but it was just this extra room in the house or whatever underneath. But that was one thing I have to point out, is the number of establishing shots of this house was more than probably in any movie I've ever seen. It's like, I'm never going to forget where I am. Yeah, you're like, yeah, I know what fucking house I'm in. It's the spooky house. You don't need to remind me every 10 minutes. But things are brought to a higher level once we find out what the true kind of, behind the scenes thing going on with who's possessed Doris. Was somebody that had been murdered in the house all these years ago, and
or multiple people that had
multiple
been
people.
Yeah.
Everyone's been murdered in this house. Doris lures Mikey into the basement, and that's when we find out that more is going on.
When she lures him back down there, I mean, obviously we know before they even go down there, she's luring him down there to kill him or possess him or whatever is going to happen.
Whisper some stuff in his ear.
The crazy white eye stuff,
Yep.
which I still didn't figure that out either, actually, what that had to do with anything.
Well, it's because it was all about the voice. That's what I guessed that it was. So they didn't really make that too clear until the very end.
Okay.
But it was always the voice, like the monster or what the thing couldn't talk unless it had a body to speak through.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, even that whole element of it being tied to World War II, like you said earlier, was, again, surprising, and it seemed to work pretty well in the overall structure of the movie and the time period, I guess.
Yeah, and obviously it was like a Dr. Mengele type crazy whatever, and there was no real tie to it other than the fact that, like, you're living in the house.
Yeah,
and,
well, that's why it was mainly just so that they could have broken the rule 2 in the Ouija thing of not doing it over a graveyard because there were all the dead bodies.
I didn't even catch that.
For real? Oh, no.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, again, one of the rules, don't do the Ouija over a graveyard. And so when they look in the walls and there's a whole bunch of skeletons in the walls.
Bodies that were buried from a deranged doctor from World War II.
Exact bodies.
Yeah.
Obviously Lena has been kind of the voice of dissent the whole time, not really thinking that what was actually happening was happening. Mom was sort of more...
She was more the logical one, I think, right?
Yeah.
Like, because even, the mother was, I think, hooked into the being
right
able to communicate with the husband was like enough for her to like want to believe in this thing because she and so I think Lena was kind of the voice of reason throughout all of it.
That's true. And then and so in the end, even though obviously what's happening is very abundantly clear because there's some kind of monster demon bitch, possessing Doris, black demon guy. I don't even know. Monster demon bitch.
That was the original title.
Working title.
Tyler Perry's movie.
Oh, that's the sequel to Boo, his Monster Demon Bitch. I'd watch that though. That's the problem, is that I'd go see that. The whole thing about the demon specifically is why it needs Doris is because it can't actually express itself, or it needs a voice in which it needs a body to possess to be able to express that. So she knows, and thanks to Ghost Dad, I've got to sew her mouth shut. Doris can't be talking anymore, and that's the problem. And again, because of it being PG-13, you can't quite actually tell what's happening in that scene. You see her going in with the stitch and then not really like actually covering her mouth, I guess.
Well, it starts with her like blasting this huge gust of wind from her mouth, and then
her hyperextended mouth.
But then the sister very easily, which I was kind of disappointed in, because like she seemed to overpower her pretty easily for somebody who had in previous scenes been very, very strong physically. But then you see this eye like in the throat, and so I was like,
I forgot about that.
I was like, oh, she's stabbing the eye, and maybe that's the key.
Once that happens, and you think, oh goodness me, we're finally done with this thing, and Doris is taken care of, and suddenly dead. I don't know why that actually killed her. They didn't explain that either. Lena ends up stabbing her mom and kills her, and that was also surprising.
While she's possessed.
And obviously she's possessed.
Which was actually, I have to say, for like cheesy movie scenes, like that death scene was actually, the acting was like pretty decent.
Well, and they played it well. I honestly thought that the movie was over. And that it was that was all there was to it.
Now we're in the mental institution.
Yeah, now we faked you out, and you're an idiot for believing us. And the way that it's cut is that you don't know in between it whether what we saw was actually real or if it was all just Lena like losing her mind because of the Ouija board and like actually murdering her sister and her mom.
Right.
You talked about this earlier, that even at the end that you see the sister, or the only survivor at this point, who actually felt really bad for her, because that's what I was like,
the sister.
Her dad's dead. Her mom's dead. Her other sister's dead. Doris is dead. Yeah, she killed her. She had to soap her sister's lips.
Her sister.
But I mean, apparently, from what we can understand,
don't sew anybody's lips together
just
ever.
Don't do
it will kill them.
Bad idea.
As much as you're tempted, sometimes they'll die and you might go to jail.
There's no turning back.
Yeah.
Again, I felt really bad for her because of all that stuff. The outcome was that she's only a survivor. But then it changed the trajectory of it once you see in the mental institution that she says she's not actually alone, and it makes a Ouija board, out of her own blood.
Yeah.
The doctor is walking down the hallway and sees her and Doris in the room momentarily.
Right.
And then Doris is walking on the ceiling. So at least in their lunacy of her still being alive, Lena and the other ones, people being dead, at least they're still getting along as a family. Like, I think that's...
I was really with it. Like, the first 3/4. It was
not... I agree. I was impressed by its stability and its overall, like, well-done quality.
Yeah. It was just the last half. I mean, the third act, as usual.
Yeah, sort of threw it out the window.
But, I mean, if there was...
So it wasn't bad, but it was just, like, so unexpected that it was, like, it's still hard to really grasp what it all meant, I guess. Hopefully we'll find out next October when Ouija 3 comes out. Return of Evil.
The origin of evil.
Yeah, and it'll be in, like, the medieval times when somebody, the first person that ever made a Ouija board, like, oh, sire, I can create this, portal between dimensions with my wooden board. Sir, you speak heresy. And then, I mean, I'm not going to write the whole movie for you. That's for Hollywood to do. But when it comes to Halloween spooks and, try to have a fun time and something that you're looking for specifically for Halloween, Ouija, this movie, it didn't really disappoint, I would say, in that regard.
It had some good scares.
Yeah, and since Rings got pushed back to February, you don't really have an option anyway. So it's either this or nothing.
Tyler Perry or...
No, shut up. Stop bringing it up. That's not even a real choice. No one wants to see that. Thanks for watching our review, guys. And, thanks for Jamie for stopping by. New face on the channel. Hope that you guys liked her. Make sure to give a thumbs up. See you next time. Bye.